This is the story of a boy whose early life was filled with nothing but chaos and tragedy. Everything that happened to him was unexpected and cruel, yet he never gave up. The man who raised him had only one goal: to turn him into a deadly ninja. And he did. The boy, Gabamar, eventually became a ninja. But not just any ninja. He became one whose body was completely immortal. No weapon could pierce his skin, no attack could kill him. And here's a little glimpse into what the story is all about. Alright folks, this is the third part of the story. Let's dive back in and see what happens next. Just moments ago, Tenzin, who arrived with the news, turns to the attacker and says sharply, "You should never raise your hand against your own family. That was a huge mistake." He continues, "You underestimated the ones you threw into that pit. They weren't dead. You should have confirmed their deaths before moving on." But instead of dwelling on it further, he drinks a strange liquid. This liquid, as it turns out, is known as the elixir of life, the very treasure everyone on the island is searching for. As soon as he drinks it, the wounds from the recent battle begin to heal, though not instantly. Slowly, his body starts to recover, and it's clear from his expression, he's absolutely furious. The scene shifts. We now see Gabamaru, Mei, and the others lying unconscious. Gabamaru slowly regains consciousness. Still groggy, his mind flashes back to the horrifying flower monster they fought earlier. He starts thinking, if I face that creature again, how can I defeat it? Suddenly, two figures appear. It's Tamiya and his executor. They look down at Gabamaru and say, "Looks like someone beat you up pretty bad." Tamiya, always looking to eliminate the competition, steps forward, clearly preparing to strike. Gabamaru, though ready to fight, surprises them. He calmly raises his hand and says, "There's no need for violence. I want to team up with you." The two are taken aback. This was not what they expected. Even the executor steps in and stops Tamiya, sensing something serious. Gabamaru then explains in more detail, there are strange beings on this island. They're called Tenzin. Tamiya and his executor haven't encountered the Tenzin yet, so they're skeptical at first. But after hearing Gabamaru's honest and strategic intentions, and realizing they work better as a team, they agree to form an alliance. Just then, Mei regains consciousness. The group turns to her, asking, "Do you know anything that could help us defeat the Tenzin?" She nods. "Yes, there's something called Tao," she says. They're confused. What is Tao? She's not sure exactly what it is either, but she explains that Tao is the key to defeating the Tenzin. Although they don't yet know where to find it, they now have a clue and a common goal. At this point, no one truly understood what that thing was, but whatever it was, they were convinced it could help them defeat the Tenzins. While they still didn't know the exact location of Tao, they had realized one thing clearly: they needed to find Tao before anything else, even before the elixir of life. The scene shifts to Sajiri and her group, who were moving forward, although uncertainty loomed over them. No one was sure if Gabamaru was even alive. This island was crawling with incredibly powerful monsters, many of which they had already faced. It seemed almost impossible that Gabamaru could still be surviving amidst all this. But Sajiri believed otherwise. She was adamant Gabamaru couldn't die, not before meeting his wife again. As they moved forward, the tree monster began to tell them about Tao. According to him, Tao wasn't just powerful, it was the most powerful thing on the island. With it, even the Tenzins could be defeated. Meanwhile, we cut to Master Sen and Nurugai. Nurugai was attacking Sen, but he easily stopped her. She wasn't trying to harm him, she wanted him to teach her how to fight, how to wield a sword. But Master Sen refused, saying this wasn't the right place for training. Nurugai then asked, "But you can't even see. How are you dodging my attacks?" Master Sen explained that he could see the waves, subtle vibrations in the environment. To perceive them, he had to remain extremely calm and keep his emotions, especially anger, in check. That's how he reacted so quickly. Nurugai was inspired. She wanted to learn so she could avenge Tenzo, who had died protecting them. Sen eventually agreed, not to teach her directly, but to let her observe and learn from his movements. First, he corrected her sword grip. Then, as monsters began to appear, Sen fought them off with graceful efficiency. Nurugai watched closely, mimicking his techniques. Soon enough, she started applying them herself, managing to take down a few monsters. Sen was impressed. He saw real potential in her. Elsewhere, we return to the boy and girl who had earlier been thrown into a pit by a Tenzin. They had escaped and were moving forward cautiously. The boy, whose name we now learn is Chobei, was trying to figure out how to defeat these monsters. Their bodies could regenerate quickly, but during a fight, he had noticed something. Certain areas of their bodies were weaker. These weak spots offered a brief opportunity to strike before they regenerated. Just then, a strange man appeared, Tenzin's right-hand enforcer. He had been sent to observe the newcomers and assess if any of them posed a threat. Calmly, he told Chobei and his sister to return to the pit and let themselves be transformed into flowers. They refused. The man summoned dozens of monsters and ordered them to attack. Chobei took on the man while his sister fought off the monsters. The man was incredibly powerful. He slashed Chobei's neck and blood gushed out. His sister was horrified, believing he couldn't survive this. But to their shock, Chobei's body began to heal, just like the Tenzins did. Neither of them understood how this was possible, but Chobei was thrilled. "Now the real fight begins," he said. The man warned him that strength alone wouldn't be enough to defeat him. He called his monsters to finish them off, thinking the girl would be easy to deal with. But when he turned around, he saw all his monsters were already dead. Chobei's sister had taken care of them. Without wasting time, Chobei launched a powerful counterattack, killing the man. His sister was shocked. "How are you healing like that? Just like the one who threw us into that pit." Before Chobei could answer, the scene shifted again. We returned to Gabimaru and his group, who were locked in an intense battle. More and more monsters kept attacking, but they were holding their ground. Tameya had placed Mei on his shoulders to protect her from the chaos. Just as they started gaining ground, another powerful figure appeared, a doshi, a leader among monsters. He looked exactly like the one Chobei had just fought, but this was someone different. This doshi revealed that he was actually a Tenzin. Still, Gabimaru defended him, since the Tenzin had helped them fight the monsters. But suddenly, the Tenzin split into two beings, and a swarm of butterflies emerged. These were the same butterflies that turned people into flowers. The battle intensified. The Tenzin revealed that Mei was once one of them, but because of her weakness, they cast her out. She was no longer considered part of their group. Mei had only two choices, either train under the doshi or die. Seeing how they exploited her, Gabimaru was furious. He activated his full power. The doshi transformed into terrifying monster forms. Gabimaru and his allies struggled. No matter how hard they hit, they couldn't hurt them. That's when Mei chose Gabimaru to inherit Tao's power. She wasn't sure what kind of power he'd gain, but fortunately, it was similar to the Tenzins. While Gabimaru couldn't master it instantly, his speed and strength increased drastically. Mei was impressed by how quickly Gabimaru adapted. With his new powers, he began overwhelming the monsters. Their mission was only to watch and report back, but before they could escape, Gabimaru and the others wiped them out. Gabimaru noted that although he had acquired the power, he hadn't mastered it yet. Until he did, it wouldn't be enough to defeat all the Tenzins. We then returned to Sajiri and the others, who had arrived at Tenzin's temple. There, they encountered a Tenzin who immediately killed the tree monster that had guided them. But the tree monster wasn't entirely dead. Yuzuriha stepped forward but was quickly captured by the Tenzin. He told them flatly, "You humans can never defeat us." He also revealed that the so-called elixir of life didn't exist. The power of Tao, which they believed could grant immortality, didn't work that way. Whether one became a tree monster or a Tenzin depended on how their body responded to Tao. To prove his power, the Tenzin created humanoid creatures from nothing, monsters who immediately captured Yuzuriha. But just as he was gloating, she broke free and launched a devastating attack. It seemed effective at first, but he quickly regenerated. As the group tried to escape, Sajiri hesitated. She feared that Gabamar might have accidentally consumed Tao and transformed into a tree monster or something worse. Yuzuriha reminded her they had to survive first if they ever wanted to find out. The Tenzin recovered and launched another assault. Surprisingly, he was impressed by Yuzuriha's strength. He offered her a place among them. Meanwhile, Sajiri and the executioner who had accompanied Yuzuriha, whose name was Santa, joined the fight. Santa's attacks were precise. Even if they weren't powerful enough to kill, they cut cleanly through the Tenzin's body. But as always, it regenerated. Yuzuriha attacked again and managed to restrain the Tenzin. But he laughed. "No matter what you do, you can't defeat me." Sajiri also joined the attack, but she was exhausted, blood trickled from her mouth. The battle was far from over. But then, she launches an incredibly powerful attack on the Tenzin. At first, it seems to work. He's injured, but even from that he begins to recover. Smirking, he says, "No matter how many times you attack, I won't tire, and my strength will never fade." The scene shifts once again. We see Sajiri. She had been attacking too. Her strike had managed to slash through one of the Tenzin's eyes. But strangely, it was healing very slowly, unlike before. They didn't understand why, but one thing was clear. The energy the Tenzin was using was depleting. His Tao was weakening. However, this energy was toxic, almost like poison. Getting too close to it could be fatal. Even so, they refused to back down. Suddenly, the Tenzin charges forward at blinding speed and grabs Sajiri. But before he can strike, Yuzuriha and Santa rush in to save her just in time. The Tenzin, however, has been fighting for a long time. He pauses, and then, to everyone's shock, changes form, transforming into a female version of himself. Floating into the air, she releases a series of deadly bombs that rain down on the battlefield, dealing massive damage. Sajiri begins to lose hope. "Maybe we can't win," she whispers. But Yuzuriha steps forward. "Don't give up. The Tenzin might be powerful, it might even seem impossible to kill, but it's not a god, which means it can definitely die." And so, they form a plan. A real strategy. For the first time, they fight like a team. Yuzuriha attacks first, trying to pin the Tenzin down. It's risky. The Tenzin could finish her at any moment. But she presses on, creating an opening. Now it's Sajiri's turn. She charges forward. Just as the Tenzin is about to strike both of them down, Santa appears out of nowhere and grabs the Tenzin from behind, holding him back with everything he has. That's all the time Sajiri needs. She delivers a decisive strike, slashing the Tenzin across the stomach. The blow is deep. The Tenzin crashes to the ground. For a moment, silence. They breathe. Finally, a moment of peace. Then, Yuzuriha turns to Santa and asks, "When the Tenzin was about to attack us, why did you suddenly step in to grab him? He could have killed you." Santa stays quiet, then answers. He says his family had raised him to be an emotionless executioner. He never wanted this life, but he was forced into it. Since childhood, he had no choice but to learn to kill. And now, it's become a part of him. No matter how much he wants to change, his responsibilities won't let him. But ever since he met Yuzuriha, something's changed. His life is slowly taking a new direction. Now, he wants to stay by her side. And just like that, we shift again. Gabamaru and his group are still locked in combat, facing off against a fearsome monster. The fight rages on, but eventually tense. Gabamaru and his team, they win. Gabamaru was thanking Mei, but suddenly he felt strange. Blood began to drip from his nose, and before anyone could react, he collapsed, unconscious. The scene shifts. We return to Sajiri and her group. They had just taken a moment to breathe, when suddenly, flowers begin to sprout from the defeated Tenzin's body. It was exactly like the other Tenzin before. And just as they were trying to make sense of it, the Tenzin transformed into a flower monster and launched a surprise attack, aimed straight at Yuzuriha. But at the very last moment, Santa jumped in and took the hit. They now realized this new form was even more dangerous than the Tenzin. Just as it prepared for a second strike, Master Sen and Nurugai arrived and immediately engaged in battle. Master Sen shouted, "Everyone, get out of here now." Meanwhile, the flowers had started growing all over Santa's body, and he was in immense pain. They tried to remove the flowers. Sagiri asked the tree monster if there was any cure, but he said he didn't know. Eventually, they managed to pull the flowers out of Santa's body. But now, even Master Sen's own body began sprouting flowers due to his intense contact with the enemy. Still, he didn't stop. With his sword, he cut the infected areas off his own body, losing a lot of blood, but he refused to back down. Sagiri suggested that the three of them should join forces to help Master Sen. But Yuzuriha said she had no energy left, she couldn't fight anymore. Nurugai encouraged them, telling them not to give up. Master Sen had been thinking deeply for a long time, trying to find a way to defeat the Tensen, especially after his past encounters. So, the battle resumed. Sagiri and Nurugai assisted Master Sen as much as they could, but the flower monster was too powerful. It stood its ground against all three of them. Master Sen, filled with anger and frustration, especially toward Tensen, pushed his body beyond its limits. He launched a flurry of powerful attacks, eventually knocking the flower monster to the ground. Sagiri and Nurugai quickly rushed in, grabbing the monster's arms to restrict its movements. It couldn't strike with its hands now, but being a flower creature, it attacked using vines. Master Sen blocked those too. Now, something had changed inside him. He had awakened Tao. After enduring so many battles, his body had absorbed enough energy. He was close to becoming a tree monster himself, but somehow he held on. Luckily, Santa had survived as well, since the flowers were removed in time. But even now, Master Sen had no idea how to fully stop the Tensen. That's when Santa shouted, "Cut its ovule!" The ovule, a core part of the flower. As soon as Master Sen sliced it open, they saw multiple heads of the Tensen inside. Master Sen grunted, "You should have told me this earlier." He immediately sliced through all the heads, and just like that, the Tensen was finally defeated. In its last moment, the Tensen wept. It whispered, "Thank you. You've ended my 1,000-year-long wait." With those final words, it transformed into a peaceful flower and faded away. But things weren't over. Santa was in a critical state. No one could think of a way to save him. Yuzuriha quietly approached. She sat beside him. Tears welled in Santa's eyes, but he was at peace, because in his final moments, he was with the one person he wished to spend his life with. And with that thought, he passed away peacefully. Morning broke. Sagiri turned to Yuzuriha, thanking her. She said it was because of her that everyone had worked together, and that now, a true friendship had formed between them. They agreed, they must continue working together to help anyone still alive on this island and find a way to return home safely. Soon they reached a small shelter, like a house, where they could rest. There they asked Master Sen about Tao. He admitted, "I don't know much. But what I do know is, Tao is incredibly powerful. And if misused, it can be extremely dangerous." Sagiri then shared something surprising. Gabamaru's teacher, his clan's master, also used Tao. He was said to be immortal, and yet he managed to leave the island. She couldn't understand how. Yuzuriha responded, maybe he wasn't immortal. Maybe he used illusion techniques, ninja tricks, to create that perception. That way, he could become the strongest in his sector, even its leader. She even speculated, maybe even Gabamaru's wife is just an illusion. But Sagiri stopped her. "No, don't say things like that." Later, Sagiri sat outside, lost in thought, thinking about Gabamaru and the others who gave their lives on this island. Master Sen came to her and asked what was on her mind. She told him everything. He smiled and said, "Maybe you have feelings for Gabamaru?" But Sagiri shook her head. "No. I used to think he was just a ruthless criminal. But now I see, he was forced to become that. He's not evil, he's a good man. A kind soul trapped in a cruel fate." The scene changes again. Gabamaru finally regains consciousness. He's in a cave. The others are sitting nearby. But something's wrong. Gabimaru doesn't remember much. His memories are hazy. Faces feel familiar, but names and events blur together. He only knows one thing. He has to find a way to escape this island and uncover the truth. Mei, watching him closely, says the Tao inside him feels different, unlike anything else. His energy wasn't strange, but something around his head, a presence, felt unusual. It confused her. She couldn't understand what it meant. And with that mystery hanging in the air, today's video comes to an end, marking the conclusion of this season of the series as well.